What's up guys, that guy with the pencil here, and it is time. Let us finally discuss one of them, one of the 7 deadly sins. Let's have a discourse on the dangers, the undying, the deadly bond, sin of greed. Bond is beastly, and despite being human, he is one of the strongest characters both at the beginning and at the end of the series. Bond in 7 Deadly Sins is a man with an unbelievably potent ability and normally the strength to match it, which is shown extremely early on. However, we're going to go a little bit farther back into the chronological past of the verse to quickly mention that when freshly immortal, Bond killed a red demon. That is all, and we're going to return to when Bond is actually introduced. Bond is initially shown to the reader, chained and contained by the weird fangs. It seems he's actually contained, but upon simply hearing of his friend Meliodas, he breaks free of his bonds, destroys every single guard he encounters, including Holy Knight Jude. Now, Holy Knights are superhuman beings in the verse that are beyond comprehension, yet Bond, another Holy Knight, is able to casually dominate this one and reveal that he only got captured because he wanted to be captured. Then, when Holy Knight Jericho shows up to try and stop him even further, what happens is, she just gets absolutely used, and she gives him a nice clean haircut and a clean shave after 5 years without one. It's super easy, and he has no trouble at all. Then, he runs into Meliodas. These two go back and forth, they fight each other, and honestly, it's in a playful sense, but they're still able to damage each other, they're still able to go back and forth. And then, they go into an arm wrestling match. Now, the only interesting thing about this arm wrestling match is that it destroys the entire area they're in, which is Boss Day Dungeon. However, in Boss Day Dungeon, and around it, there is a magical barrier that's capable of holding 10 Tyrant Dragons. Now, a single Tyrant Dragon is able to level a town on its own, and this barrier can hold 10 of them, yet Bond and Meliodas, while not even going serious and not even trying to, absolutely destroyed the entire area, which is rather impressive. The next feat we have for Bond is his confidence in slaying a transformed Black Hound. Now, the interesting thing about this feat is that the Black Hound he was about to slay, Oslo, was transformed into a stronger state, and while just showing up, defeated 2 other Holy Knight apprentices easily, and Holy Knight apprentices are still superhuman to a various degree. And before he can even actually kill it, Meliodas has to stop him and be like, wait, hold on bro, don't do it to him, so it's very likely that Bond could have just easily done it like he was planning to. Then, we move on to the Capital of the Dead arc, where we see Bond versus King. Now admittedly, these aren't good feats for Bond, because both times he's really outclassed, and the first time when he goes to use Snatch to try and gain an upper hand, he ends up getting stopped. The second time, he ends up getting petrified by King, and that's the end of that fight. Then, moving on, what we have is the Vizsla Fight Festival, where we actually get Bond versus Meliodas in a proper sense, the two actually fighting. And here we see that base to base, Meliodas does have more raw power, it's just that Bond is a bit faster than him. So Bond can give out more blows, Meliodas can deal more damage every time he hits Bond. However, this is where we get Physical Hunt Bond, where he drains all of Meliodas' strength and Meliodas can do nothing about it other than hold that, and he forces Meliodas to go into Demon Mark to even survive the attack that Bond's about to throw at him. Then, things don't get much better for Bond, as when the new generation shows up, he kind of gets worked over and over and over again by Jericho. Like, it's not even funny, because the first time Jericho shows up, pauses immortality, defeats him. Bond gets up and holds Veronica hostage, his immortality gets negated again, and he's defeated again by Jericho. Third time, Bond gets defeated by Jericho again. Fourth time, it's not Jericho this time, but it is Berserk Meliodas who ends up chopping Bond in half. However, this is where we show that him losing to Jericho was more so of an anti-feat, just because Bond is able to save Kula and Jericho when they couldn't avoid Berserk Meliodas on his own. So there you go for that. And then for the next big speed feat we have for Bond is when he manages to evade the Mother Catastrophe that Diane is throwing out, even when an amped Hellroom could. So that's actually pretty impressive for Bond's speed. Then Bond has his fight with Don Roar and the Armor Giant. However, this fight doesn't really do much for Bond, as it's just him avoiding the Armor Giant until he gets a weapon when he instantly rips out one of its hearts thanks to his magical ability, and then Meliodas is forced to kill the Armor Giant rather than Bond himself. Then, the next fight we really get for Bond that shows off a good feat for him is Meliodas versus Bond Part 2, when they're fighting for Elaine. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it shows when with a proper weapon, Meliodas is able to actually get worked a bit by Bond, because he has the superior speed and Bond has a weapon now, so he can use his full abilities. Now, the interesting thing about that is, a lot of people assume that Meliodas is drastically stronger than Bond, but considering Bond pulled up and immediately ripped an arm off when Meliodas was there and still on guard from his last fight with the Holy Knights, it shows that, you know, Meliodas was kind of on guard and Bond still right his arm, just right off, no problem at all. And in that fight, they're shown really relative to each other, with Meliodas really having no strength advantage. But you could argue that Meliodas was fatigued, but that still is a good feat for Bond. Then Bond gets his best feat, honestly, when he pulls up on Red Demon Blood Amped Hendrickson and forces him to transform again, because Bond absolutely dominates him just because he saw the Red Demon that Hendrickson got the power up from and ended up absolutely destroying him. But then Hendrickson evolves and goes into Grey Demon Amped Hendrickson, and then Bond, like everyone else, is forced on the back foot. Then we're going to move on to Bond's next big feat, skipping over the Albion arc entirely since Bond doesn't do much there, and we get to the Ravens arc, where Bond has some of his best feats. So he reunites with his father, he gets pulled up on by the Ten Commandments, which are Galen and Melascula, because he was holding off Elaine from killing Jericho, and then he goes on to trick them, outplay them, and end up stealing over half of Galen's strength and more with Hunter's Festival, and ends up dominating that Galen with no real trouble at all. Like, Bond isn't even really shown struggling, except until Melascula reveals that Bond's body may be immortal, but his soul isn't, and thusly she's able to eat his soul. But he doesn't actually get his soul eaten, he just ends up getting his soul taken for a little bit, and his father saves him from that, and they go on to escape. The last impressive feat really we get for Hunter's Fest Bond is that he manages to steal both Melascula and Galen's heart before either of them can comprehend it, and then he escapes. However, after that, he needs to get protected by Escanor, and we move further into the future. Then, we get a little bit weird scaling for base mid-series Bond, where he's able to damage and keep up with post-Druid base Meliodas, but I'll admit, I'd say all these feats here are a little bit outliers, a little bit inconsistent, because Meliodas should be 10 times stronger than Bond, like straight up. So it's most likely that Meliodas was either suppressed, or these are just outliers, I'm not gonna lie to you. However, once the Ten Commandments roll up and we actually get to see them try to fight Meliodas, Bond is revealed to just be completely outmatched by Meliodas, and he needs to escape with everyone else. And this is where Bond kind of falls off, because he has this one good feat where he completely slips past the Ten Commandments. Even Mon Speed, who can sense magic from miles away, he could sense people watching him through a magic orb. They weren't even nearby him, and he was able to tell that, but he couldn't see Bond going by them. And he breaks Melascula's neck, proceeds to rip out 5 more of her hearts and destroy them. But the main issue here is Bond just is completely outclassed strength-wise. He can't even comprehend Esterosa, and even with Hunter's Fast stealing from all the Ten Commandments, which includes some of the most powerful characters we had seen up to the series in this point, doesn't mean anything, because Esterosa still kills Meliodas and Bond is destroyed. And this is where we hit the streak. Bond just being absolutely useless. He can't do anything against Esterosa when he shows up again. He can't do anything against Grey Road and Fraudulent. He can't do anything at all, really, against Chandler. And he can't do anything against much of anyone. The only good thing he really has here is his speed feat of saving everyone from Chandler when post-training King couldn't. So there you go. Because other than that, everyone else just disregards Bond because he's not that physically powerful. However, this is when we're going to get to Purgatory Bond, where Purgatory Bond kind of just shoots up and almost like, yeah, in every single one of his stats, not even almost, all of his stats, his stamina, his strength, his speed, everything shoots up. Even his senses shoot up, because Merlin's father, a reputable musician and knowledgeable person in the verse, is like, you can't even comprehend Purgatory with regular human senses, but Bond is able to comprehend everything after a while in Purgatory, and his body completely adapts so he feels no negative effects from Purgatory. Then, Meliodas' soul, given a body, notes that Bond is actually way more powerful than he ever was before, and when he finally gets back to the real world, no one's gonna recognize him. This goes on to be proven in Purgatory when Bond fights the true body of the Demon King, which has only grown larger and stronger than before due to consuming the potent life of the creatures in Purgatory. Bond manages to evade this Demon King and proceed to fight him for 60 years straight with no problem alongside Meliodas and Wild. Now, they fought the Demon King 6,093 times, yet Bond just didn't seem to really care. He expressed no fatigue and was perfectly fine. He was just hungry. And then they left the Demon King alone for a little while. But then when they finally came back to the Demon King, Bond had developed a new ability and manages to hold the Demon King back due to his endless life. After Wild sacrifices himself, Bond and Meliodas both go to return to the mortal realm, and then Bond annihilates all the demons attacking the Fairy King's forest and returns Elaine to life by sacrificing his own immortality. Now we're going to get to Bond's greatest feat up to this point when he fights one-on-one with the Demon King Meliodas' body. Now, this will be post-resurrection Meliodas, plus the Ten Commandments. Now, it could be implied that this was even Assault Mode Meliodas since his body is covered in demonic markings, but regardless, Bond, a human, manages to fight the Lord of the Demon World in his son's body, in his optimal vessel, when beings like Sunshine Mael couldn't, Astral Body Ludishel couldn't, and Fatigued Full Wings King couldn't. And even more people were there that just couldn't do anything to this Demon King. Bond even insults the Demon King Storm, the same Storm that multiple beings were just like, oh man, nothing that was alive could survive in there. He just called it a light breeze. Bond was joking on the Demon King. He didn't even care no more. He even defeats the Demon King himself by dealing that final blow which restores Meliodas. After a short period of peace, the Demon King's revealed to be alive again, and Bond, along with the other Sins, goes to fight Endura. This is the best thing for Bond because he gets his sacred treasure back and shows off that it allows him to increase his capabilities massively and gives him insane range, and he destroys thousands of Endura creatures all on his own immediately the moment he gets his sacred treasure back, and with the rest of the Sins defeats the Endura. Then they all ride the Endura to the fight with the full power Demon King. Now, if the title Full Power Demon King is to be believed, it would mean that this would be Zeldris plus the 10 Commandments stacked on top of the other half of the Demon King's power that was in Purgatory, plus all the extra power that the Demon King gained in Purgatory from eating all those creatures. So, that means Bond, alongside Meliodas, Escanor, and King, and originally just Escanor and King before Meliodas showed back up, are all able to react to and contend with and even take attacks from this Demon King without even combining their attacks. Then, once the Demon King possesses Britannia itself, the Sins do need a bit of a boost from Merlin to properly destroy him as a unit. And honestly, that's the end of Bond's feats. Against Cath, he can't even damage the dimension he's trapped in and is forced to rely on Arthur. Now, that is Bond, and I'm going to split him into 4 forms to discuss him purely power and speed-wise. Those 4 are Bandit Bond, beginning of series Bond, mid-series Bond, and post-Purgatory Bond, with a caveat for the last 3. Bandit Bond is the easiest to scale, consistently being able to damage a red demon, which scales around New Generation Holy Knights, which are around city level. And for speed, it's a lot more contentious, but considering he's able to keep up with Elaine, and Elaine is able to keep up with mid-series Bond, you could easily argue he's beyond Massively Hypersonic Plus, because, you know, Elaine shouldn't have gotten any stronger after she died in the fight with the red demon, and she's able to keep up with Bond in the future, just like Bond was able to keep up with her in the past. Is it weird to scale Bond to himself? Yes, it is very weird to scale Bond to himself, but we have to do it here because there's no other way to figure out Bandit Bond's speed. For the beginning of series Bond, there are 2 versions of Bond under this one, Base Bond and Physical Hunt Bond. For Base Bond, you've heard it before, it's the same mountain level scaling for a lot of beginning of series Sin, because he scales directly to Meliodas, King, and Diane, all capable of creating mountain level feats or large mountain level feats in the case of Diane, and they are able to damage characters like Red Demon Hendrickson, Bond specifically being able to dominate Red Demon Hendrickson just like Meliodas could, so that easily makes him mountain level. So for his speed, once again, he's beyond Massively Hypersonic Plus, being consistently shown faster than Meliodas and Guild Thunder, who are lightning timers pretty easily. Physical Hunt Bond, you can just double his stats since he absorbed all of Meliodas' physical strength, making him twice mountain level and possibly twice as fast, if not stronger. For mid-series Bond, this is where things get weird and complicated, mainly because despite being at a 10th of his power level, Bond is able to keep up with and damage post-Druid base Meliodas, but honestly, this doesn't really make much sense in context because, like I said, Meliodas should be 10 times stronger than him, and the only way we can really rationalize this is that Meliodas was holding back all the times he was messing around with Bond, which would make sense. He's rarely shown to go serious unless it's against an actual enemy he's trying to fight, so I'll chalk it up to that. Because Meliodas is island level when he's in post-Druid base, but I don't think Bond gets that high. I'm going to be completely real with y'all. I don't think you can really put Bond there in good conscience. But if you want to just completely accept that, then go ahead. I won't stop you. Then we get a bit more interesting and a bit more logical for Hunter's Fest Bond because he absorbed over half of Gallon's strength, plus the strength of multiple beings in the area. And that easily puts him at island level. He's 13 times stronger than his beginning of series self, pure numbers wise. My boy is good to go. If you want to take Melaskula's statement about him surpassing Gallon, meaning Gallon at all times when he's normally powered, which would be the same Gallon that's able to attack a country level Tarmail and bisect him, then you could scale Hunter's Fest Bond that way, but that's an implication that I personally don't agree with because it's likely that Melaskula was talking that he surpassed Bond in that. No, she was most likely talking about Bond surpassing Gallon in that moment because of the Hunter's Festival stealing his strength rather than him being stronger than Gallon at all times. But once again, take that interpretation however you want. I won't stop you if you want to give Bond that much benefit of the doubt. I just don't personally agree with it. And then same thing with his speed. If normally he'd just be 13 times faster than lightning, around there if not a bit more, which is still great for him. And honestly, he would be relativistic if you want to scale him to the Archangels based off Gallon's past scaling, if you want to take Melaskula's statement that way. Really? A toss-up? Like I said, I won't stop you, but it does seem a little bit shaky in my eyes. You see why Bond is weird to scale mid-series? Because he also has that feat against Chandler, but he never replicates that again. Like, I guess unless you want to say putting Chandler in like a full Nelson was, but that's really it. That's all Bond truly has for mid-series. For post-Purgatory Bond, we have a lot to discuss here, because there is the safer way to scale Bond, and then there's my way of scaling Bond, which is a bit more risky. It takes a lot of the things that the series has told us lore-wise, rather than stuff the series has shown us explicitly on panel. So it's a lot of the statements versus feats thing, but I'll explain myself when I get to there. Start off with the safer scaling. Both Tarmiel and Mael have multiple country level calcs out there, and these two characters are drastically inferior to the Demon King, and this is even shown when Mael on panel can't even phase the Demon King Meliodas' body, but then Bond rolls up and ends up fighting the Demon King head to head with no real problems at all. He just needs to protect the others, and it seems as if for one-on-one, Bond would be able to work the Demon King Meliodas' body pretty well, so that easily means that Bond would be at least multi-country level, most likely continental, considering how drastically he scales above this country level Mael with no problems at all. For Bond's speed, what you would really want to do is see that, okay, characters like Margaret by Lushel and 4 Commandment Mael are able to harness light beams. Those light beams should move the speed of light, since they're basically goddesses manipulating raw light, and characters like Full Wings King and Zelda are able to blitz these characters, and then those characters either scale directly to Bond in the case of Full Wings King, or they are faster than Margaret by Lushel, and then Bond is faster than them in the case of Zeldris. So that would make Bond easily faster than light. So if you really want to do a safer scaled version of Bond, say multi-country level to continental, with a slight advantage of faster than light, considering he's faster than a lot of characters who use light-based attacks. Then what you're going to have for the more risky scaling, I'm going to need y'all to hear me out. So Bond is able to damage the Demon King in Meliodas' body. So that would be Meliodas' body plus the half of the Demon King's power, the 10 Commandments, right? So then you're going to have Bond equaling that Demon King, or not equaling, but being able to damage that Demon King. Then you have the Demon King, who isn't equal to the Supreme Deity, and the Supreme Deity created the Celestial Realm. And the thing about the Celestial Realm is that it's an entirely separate dimension from the regular world. So that means it contains a whole ton of different aspects. It's not even in the same time space as the regular world. Then you have Mael's Grace, which is sun. Escanor calls it sunshine, but a lot of the archangels just constantly refer to it as sun instead of sunshine, due to most likely differences in the abilities, or just the fact that Escanor didn't know what to call it, considering it was just his magic, and he never really had anyone to name it for him, while the Supreme Deity most likely gave all the Graces names. So the Grace works only when there is a sun in the area, like directly a sun in the area, because someone like Chandler can even block out the sun, and then that stops the Grace's activation, such as shown with Escanor. Now, what does this mean? It means that in this separate dimension, there has to be a dwarf star, or else Mael's Grace just won't work. And in that case, if the Grace relies on a sun, and they're in a separate dimension, that means the Supreme Deity who created that separate dimension had to at least have a dwarf star in there. So if there is a dwarf star in there, and it took her to make that for the Grace to work at all, then that means the Demon King, her equal, also created a world that was at least parallel to her, since they're equal in power. That means half the Demon King's power would be, bare minimum, half dwarf star level. In that case, then you take that and stack that on Meliodas' body, and then you give Bond the fact that he was able to damage said Demon King head on, means that the Demon King and Bond should scale to about large multiplanetary, since you can fit about 1,000 Jupiters in our sun, for example, and then you cut that in half, that's 500 Jupiters, and Jupiter is a large planet. So you could argue, using the scaling from the lore rather than just the feats that we have on screen, because of course no one's destroyed the planet in Tai's Eye just yet, and you would have a multi-large planetary Bond. And then for the speed, you would have to take into account either the regular light meta, which I pushed a little bit in an older video, which is about Gother having access to light beams, but someone brought up a point that, oh, it's not natural light. We never had those being stated to move at the speed of light. I'll give you that. But then we have the Goddess Clan, who manipulates light beams Just straight up, that's what their arc is made out of. It's made out of light particles, which are photons. So those have to move with the speed of light, and then I understand the point of, oh, okay, since goddesses may spawn it on someone, that doesn't mean that's light speed. I need to see a beam. So the beam I can understand, I can give to you in characters like Margabati Ludishel and 4 Commandment Mael. Even weaker versions of Commandment Mael. But let's say 4 Commandment Mael, just to make it nice and easy. Both of these characters are able to use light speed attacks and fight with people who are able to react with those light speed attacks. That means that they're around light speed. And then both of those characters would be massively blitzed by Full Wings King or blitzed by Zeldris, and would especially be blitzed by Post-Purgatory Bond. So that means it's most likely that Bond is actually way faster than light, not just slightly faster than light. But that does take blitzing into account, so do what you will with that. So that means that if you take a more lore-based Bond that's including a lot of what the series has told us rather than directly showed us, he would be a multi-planetary, multiple times faster than light threat. However, I understand that does sound crazy. That's massively higher than I think I've seen anyone logically scale the series. I've heard some crazy wank for the series, but it's not going that far, and I will make an entire video discussing where I think the series would actually be in terms of power if we took lore into respect and like actually understood what the series has told us and interpreted it in ways. And then I'll also tell you how you could like Ludawink the series if you want to take some statements way out of proportion. But that's for another time. To cut it down and make it nice and simple, for your safer scale Post-Purgatory Bond, you want to put them at multi-country low to continental with fast and light speeds. And then for your lore-based Bond scaling, you would want to put them at multi-large planetary with many times fast and light speed. But that is that. And really, with all that, I haven't even discussed Bond himself truly, why he himself specifically is so broken. And that would be his abilities. So for the most part, every single Bond, except for Post-Purgatory End of Series Bond, has the same abilities, except that the last Bond has lost some and gained some. So, Bond's main magical ability is Snatch, and it allows him to snatch things from people. However, this range is broad and applies to a wide range of things. Snatch can steal objects from people, including things like organs and teeth and weapons, but all he has to do is want it. He doesn't ever actually have to contact the person. This also allows Bond to steal the motion of the object, so it can't even move at all. This works on weapons such as swords, which prevent them from being used at all. Snatch allows Bond to also steal his opponent's strength, speed, and stamina, and add it on top of his own. He can do this while taking hits as well, which is why it works so good with his other attribute. He can do this with Physical Hunt, which focuses on one person, or he can do it on someone with... However, once he uses it, he gets extremely fatigued. The main techniques he has with Snatch that actually attack are Fox Hunt, where he uses the weapon to snatch an object from an opponent, like a heart. Banishing Kill allows Bond to pull over his opponent and slash their torso, for which anyone who can't regenerate is normally fatal. And then Assault Hunt is an attack where Bond just lunges in and decapitates anything in his path. Crazy Hunt is an amplified Assault Hunt, where Bond tears out the vital organs of multiple beings at once in rapid succession. Then he has Zero Sign, where it becomes imperceptible to beings as powerful as the 10 Commandments, including Speed, who could sense people staring at him from miles away through a magic orb, and that's all the people walking right next to him as Bond did. Then the final Snatch-based ability would be Gift, where Bond can lend his strength and healing to another instead of taking it. Then Bond has Kurchu, so 4-section staff that increases in range and bends in whatever way Bond wants it to. So this allows him to access super concentration, which allows him to act at his peak level of physical and mental capabilities, allowing him to attack and strike at his top speed without worrying about processing. Now we get Bond's most notable trait, his immortality, and why Post-Purgatory Bond, Post-Elaine, and Pre-Elaine are a thing. Bond's immortality makes it so that he's immune to all poisons, cannot get sick, lives forever, and can survive anything. Bond can get his head crushed, cut in half, be blown into nothing but a blood splatter, and survive like nothing happened. The only thing ever shown to stop or pause or even slow down Bond's immortality is the power of the Demon Clan. Jericho, while by Red Demon Blood, could pause it, and the Hellblaze is shown to negate immortality entirely, leaving Bond with a visible scar. This immortality, combined with Snatch, allows him to face tank everything without any issue, and is what allows him to fight as recklessly as he does. Bond has this all the way up until he revives Elaine, when he loses it. Thus, I would say the strongest version of Bond will be Post-Purgatory Pre-Elaine Bond, because while Corchu's is nice, it's not as nice as the immortality. If you combine them, you'd break most of the series over Bond's knee, because Bond was that strong. Now, I've given you all this information, all his feats, all his stats, all his abilities. Now, where does he fall at the end of it all? So, beginning of series Bond is actually the second weakest sin we have, being weaker than King, Meliodas, Diane, and Merlin, and most likely being superior to Gotha thanks to his feats and speed. Mid-series Bond is the weakest sin, being weaker than all the post-training sins, Escanor, and post-memories Gotha. And he's still weaker than all the commandments in his base state, only getting up there to being slightly relevant with Hunter's Festival, unless you want to take some sketchy post-Druid Meliodas scaling into effect. However, end of series Bond is stronger than all 10 commandments, stronger than all 4 archangels, and honestly stronger than a majority of the entire series. There's also a direct middle in terms of power of the 7 deadly sins themselves. However, he is weaker than a few characters. He's weaker than the Demon King, the Supreme Deity, Chaos, Post-Chaos Arthur, Post-Chaos Cath, True Magic Meliodas, Ultimate One Escanor, and Full Wings King. The Demon King's true body was able to outclass Bond directly. Supreme Deity is the Demon King's equal. Chaos created the verse. Arthur holds the power of the creator of the verse. Chaos Cath holds an aspect of the power and was beaten only by Arthur. True Magic Meliodas is superior to the Demon King, who's stronger than Bond. Ultimate One Escanor can box one-on-one with the full power Demon King, while Bond was struggling with a weaker one. And Full Wings King, when refreshed, is able to perform equal feats to post-Purgatory Bond of reacting to and fighting the full power Demon King, and King just has more chances and techniques that will beat end of series Bond, especially since Bond lost his immortality. However, that one is more debatable. Bond is quite the character. He's a thief that lived through a horrid life as a child and grew to be lonely and looking for something to fill the hole in his heart. The sacred maiden of the Fairy King's forest, Elaine, had finally filled that hole in his heart, but the loss of love through death, while he stayed eternal, pained him beyond belief. Depression and sadness is what consumed him for years, but it was his best friend Meliodas who managed to chip away at the darkness that consumed his soul. However, Bond fell all over again because he didn't want to accept the fact that Elaine was gone. He couldn't have what he wanted. Not a true friendship, not a true love, not immortality, not happiness. However, when Bond finally learns the truth of Meliodas and grows to understand what he must do to save his brother in arms, and due to his physical and spiritual journey, grows exponentially all in order to save his best friend and revive his true love, it's fantastic. Bond was a greedy man, but he was a greedy man for all the right reasons. Do y'all see why I'm scared to do a Meliodas? Y'all see this, right? It's not just me. Y'all see this, right? Like, how long have you been sitting here? I don't even know how long the video is, but as I sit here finishing the script and looking at the page count, I can estimate. But regardless, thanks you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found out something you didn't. And I really hope you gain some respect for the sin of greed, the eternal avarice Bond. Please, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.